Hey, this is Mark with Onyx Training. I want to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in Jersey City. Um, First off, condolences to Detective Seal and his family. He definitely made the ultimate sacrifice for the people of the community, and for that, we all us sheep are eternally grateful to him and appreciate that what he did yesterday. And the other officers, all the officers involved in that yesterday, they definitely answered the call that you prepare for and hope never happens. But when it happens, they stood up to it. And for the other victims of what I think could be a targeted, essentially terroristic act, you know, we would think about them as well. And something that came about from that really made me think, and I'm not saying that the officers there weren't doing it, but what it really made me think about is, especially in a place like that where you have several hundred officers can respond in a very short amount of time, or I think all the way back to the Columbine, living in Denver. That's all, in Colorado, we've had a lot of incidents here, and Columbine incident where, that ended up with some 600 officers on scene of that. And, it's one thing in a place where you can have a lot of officers respond. You have a large metropolitan area, you have a big city. But it made me think of how much else still needs to happen there. As I was looking at video and I'm watching, 20 or 30 police officers, walking down the street all, with rifles out, and and it's being filmed by, citizens. So they're walking away, and it appears that nobody's paying attention to the 360. And it just kind of hit me that, being that it's possibly a terroristic event, and, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how terrorists might do things and change up as we adapt to what they do. And one of the things that I thought about is, what if that initial activity was merely a distraction to draw in, much like we know that, everybody responds to like an IED, and then you have a second or a third IED that goes off after everybody responds and all the first responders are there and everything's going on. And it just hit me that watching the scenery is that people need to make sure that they are maintaining that 360 coverage, right? That officers are still watching the public. They're watching to see is anybody coming up behind them. And I'm not saying that they weren't doing that in this situation, because I couldn't see everything, but it just made me realize that something that I really hadn't given a lot of thought to is that in a prolonged incident like this, in a large space or a highly populated area, is that what if that were to happen? Because you're going to get a lot of people coming out to see what's going on. They're standing around. I've been involved in that in different SWAT incidents where, you look behind you as an E-team, you look behind you and there's a bunch of citizens standing there, 30, 40 feet away. And you're like, hey, we need to move them out of the line of fire, because they are in the line of fire. And it just really hit me with that event yesterday is that we need to make sure, and I'm saying this now as a kind of a learning piece or a reminder, is that we need to make sure that we are maintaining that 360 coverage. And, if you become the 60th and 70th on scene, you kind of know that they have the initial situation locked down, the other officers do. And maybe you can be doing something else. Like I'm thinking, searching blocks to make sure there are no additional victims. Start making, pulling back on the perimeter, pushing people back, getting people further back away from the shooting, because they were still really close to the actual shooting and still exposed to gunfire. And so, can you be getting people back out of the way? I say looking for victims, moving the innocent bystanders right back, keeping in line with the safety priorities, right? Do we have any more victims? Can we get the innocent bystanders? Now police officers, we don't need to put all these police officers in that area that can be hit by an errant round if it's not necessary. You know, if it were a hostage rescue, then they should put together a team and make a rescue. But we need to be remembering these, and it's just kind of a reminder to say, hey, we do need to be thinking about all that kind of stuff. In addition to what's going on, we have a crime scene. We don't know how big the crime scene is. We need to start locking that down, figuring it out. And also now the next step, right? Interviewing people. What did people see? That can be happening. They have enough officers on scene. Now I take that to a place that has a lot fewer officers. We need to be planning that and be thinking about that and have that part of our response. We may not be able to do all those things at that moment, right? They're still trying to stop that threat, but we need to be having those in place. You know, that may go down to just 1 or 2 officers now are searching the area, looking around a couple streets over or whatever, searching for any additional victims. But we need to make sure that happens, because you think about some of the past events where victims have been hit or struck and nobody's found out about it because nobody looked for any victims. So it's just something that hit me, is how many other things still need to be happening in there. And especially if it's a possible terrorist situation, is that just a distraction to lure first responders and additional resources in, and then not with an IED necessarily, but with additional shooters, you know? So something to think about. Hey, you know, just hit me as I was watching the video, and I thought I just might want to put out a reminder to our first responders and law enforcement. If you're already thinking about that, well, then you're way ahead of the game. But otherwise, hopefully this is something that has given you a little bit of information and pause for thought. Hey, this is Mark, Onyx Training Group. If you can answer any questions, if you have any comments, concerns, please hit me up, mneil@onyxtg.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Onyx Training Group. And, you know, hey, it's just a message out there to all the first responders, you know, keep doing what you do. You know, because of what those officers did yesterday, they definitely minimized the amount of people injured and killed and harmed. And, you know, Detective Seal put his life on the line, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice. And that's something that, you know, law enforcement, we know could happen in the event of our career. And, but it's just, you know, we just appreciate it. We appreciate the people who answer the call and continue to stand up against criminals and against terrorists. Thank you.